A public official is supposed to be your safety net when you're abroad. But what happens when that safety net disappears? Or worse, what if the person meant to protect you is the one you need protection from? Well, today we are digging into the very troubling case of German honorary consul Thomas Wagner. And right away, you can see the problem. On one side, you've got the resume, honorary consul, law partner, a well-connected figure. On the other side, a list of allegations that sound like something out of a spy thriller, a cyber attack, and a legal arrest. So the big question is, how on earth did the person on the left allegedly become the person on the right? So, how did this all unravel? Where does the story even begin? It wasn't with some big, dramatic crime. It started with a simple, desperate plea for help. In August of 2023, a German citizen named Marco Schachner reached out to his consul, and in doing so, he unknowingly pulled a thread that would unravel a whole lot more. All right, let's look at the evidence, starting with Exhibit A. This part of the story isn't about an attack, but about something almost worse, a complete and total pattern of neglect. And you're about to see how official silence can be the most dangerous thing of all. So back in August 2023, Marco Schachner is in real trouble. He's being harassed, his property is getting vandalized, and he does what you're supposed to do. He contacts his consul. And the response he gets? Nothing. Absolute radio silence. And in that vacuum with no official support, his situation goes from bad to worse fast. We're talking false police reports, protesters outside his house, a total nightmare. And it turns out Schachner's experience wasn't a one-off. Other German expats in the area felt the same way, describing Wagner as totally ineffective. There were even reports of really sensitive consular issues, private, personal stuff, being discussed right out in the open in a public lobby. That's not just unprofessional, it's a huge security risk. Now we move to Exhibit B, and this is where the story takes a really dark turn. We're shifting from passive neglect to what looks like a direct, coordinated attack. This is where our cry for help to the German embassy is met, not with assistance, but with a digital weapon. And at the heart of this assault is a very mysterious name, Götz Knobloch. Now, this Knobloch character popped up claiming to be a top German federal official, contacting Schachner on behalf of the embassy. Imagine you're Schachner. You've been ignored for months, and now, finally, it looks like a high-ranking official is stepping in. It must have felt like a huge relief. But it wasn't. The attack itself was brutally efficient. Schachner, ignored by the local consul, goes over his head to the main embassy. He gets a reply from this Götz Knobloch. And that email, sent on November 14th, was a trap. It contained something called the Black Orchid virus. The result was catastrophic. All of his devices wiped clean. Years of data, and more importantly, all the evidence he'd been collecting to defend himself, just gone. So you might be asking, okay, but what's the direct connection to Consul Wagner? For months, that was the missing piece. Then in April 2024, a whistleblower came forward with a bombshell. They confirmed that it was Wagner's office that handled all initial first-level contact for the embassy. And just like that, the ghost Götz Knobloch had an address. The digital trail pointed straight back to Wagner's operation. And here's where it gets even crazier. Schachner wasn't the only target. Investigators found a whole pattern of this. The Black Orchid virus and the Götz Knobloch persona were being deployed like a digital weapon. Other people, usually folks who were in some kind of dispute with powerful locals, would get a similar email. And the worst part? When they tried to report it, local police would shut the case down as soon as they heard a German official was involved. It was the perfect cover. Okay, so from digital warfare, the campaign against Schachner now allegedly spills over into the physical world. Let's look at Exhibit C, because this is about using the power of a diplomatic office to try and get a man put in handcuffs. This is a pretty stunning accusation. In February 2024, Consul Wagner himself allegedly instructed local state police to arrest Marco Schachner and extradite him to Germany. Think about that. He's accused of using his diplomatic clout to order the detention of his own citizen on foreign soil. So what was the legal paperwork for this dramatic extradition? What were the official documents filed by the German embassy to back it up? Take a look. That's right. A big, fat zero. Nothing. There were no documents, no formal requests. It was, allegedly, a complete bluff, an attempt to use his title to trick local police into doing his dirty work. So when the extradition plot completely fell apart because there was, no legal basis for it, did they stop? Oh no,
They just switched tactics. Now they started pleading with immigration officials to just deport Wagner. And their star witness? Get this. It was Schachter's landlord, a guy who was literally under investigation himself for massive property fraud. The desperation is just incredible. And that brings us to our final exhibit. And honestly, it's a wild one. This is what happens when you try to use the legal system as a weapon and it backfires so spectacularly that you end up creating the most damning evidence against yourself. So, in an incredibly bold move, Consul Wagner decides to go on the attack. He files his own legal complaint against Wagner, claiming Wagner is a major security risk to the consulate. He's trying to flip the whole script and use the courts to officially brand his victim as the bad guy. And how did that go? Well, the court wasn't buying it, not for a second. The case was tossed out immediately. The judge basically said, look, this court has no business being involved here. This is a problem between a German citizen and his own consul, and you need to solve it through other means, not by filing complaints. But, and this is the crucial part, in that failed lawsuit, Wagner made a colossal mistake. In his own signed official court filing, he explicitly named Götz Knobloch. And not just named him, he identified him as the head of the BKA, that's basically Germany's FBI, in Mexico, and said he'd held the job for over 15 years. In his own sworn statement, Wagner just gave an official identity, rank, and a long history to the very phantom who allegedly sent the virus. And that single sentence put the German authorities in an impossible position. By putting Knobloch's name and title in a court document, Wagner has forced their hand. Now they have two options. Either they produce this top federal police chief that no one's ever heard of, or they have to admit that a fake official was created and used to target a German citizen. The evidence is now part of the public record, which leaves just one question. Who is going to make sure someone is held accountable?